Okay, welcome everyone to tonight's team call. I'm Tracy Stein, Emerald Ambassador, and this is our Leap of Faith on the Rise team call. And tonight we have guest speaker Brianne Coolidge with us. We're so excited to have her here. Many of you have heard of Brianne and seen her. I've been so honored to get to know her over the last year and a half almost now, and it's been such a blessing. So I want to share a little bit about Brianne real quick, and then I'll just let her take it away. So for those of you that don't know, Brianne has been a part of Plexus for 3 years. She sounds similar to my story, heard of network marketing, but just knew, didn't really want to be a part of it. So obviously her mind as well as mine were opened a little bit to that when we got into Plexus. But she lives in Pennsylvania with her husband and 3 kids. She had 3 kids in 3 years. And she went Emerald in 18 months and Sapphire in 2 years. They're approaching their 1 year of being Sapphire this coming May. And she was able to be a stay-at-home mom now and be with her kids and is no longer teaching. But I will tell you, y'all, I've followed Brianne for over a year, and I will never forget convention when she was like the random ball that was drawn for Musha K, and I start crying and my husband's like, why are you crying? I'm like, oh my gosh, this girl so deserved this trip. And he, like, after that he was like, okay, like, tell me more about this girl. And then we got to hang out with Brianne in Hawaii, and it was fabulous, karaokeing and dancing the night away. And I'm just so honored to have gotten to know her and be working with her. And I'm so glad that y'all get to hear from her tonight. So, Brianne, take it away.
Ugh. Now I'm even more emotional every time I think about this journey and what it's done for our family and where we've been. Ugh. Okay, so first of all, I've done a lot of these calls, Tracy, and that was by far my favorite opening with prayer. I love, love, love that. And you guys are so blessed to have her. So blessed to have her. You'll hear a little bit about my story, but my closest diamond upline or jewel upline is 7 levels up from me. And so that was hard at first, and I can talk a little bit about that. But the fact that you guys have that and you have somebody pouring into you and doing all the things that she does is just amazing. So I hope that you guys know that, because sometimes I know that it's easy to take those things for granted, but she loves you guys so, so, so well. But just a really quick kind of synopsis, if you will, of my journey with Plexus, because I know that you guys had some questions that I want to get to too. But 3 kids in 3 years. I don't have to be compliant, right? Okay. In that same 3-year time span, I was already having migraines. I've had migraines since I was in high school. And so I know now that those are kind of like the precursors, right? But I didn't take it that way. Like, I just thought that that's something that would happen. I'd get optical migraines, I'd lose my vision for 24 hours. But then 3 kids in 3 years, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an extreme hypothyroidism, celiac disease, lupus, and rheumatoid arthritis in that same 3-year time span. And I also, my oldest daughter, who just turned 9, when she was 14 months old, went through her first anaphylactic food allergy response from a really small piece of a cashew. And so we had all these things that were going on. I was a school teacher at the time, resigned when my second daughter, I was supposed to go back when I took a year off with her because we had just built a house. I had to go back to work. Like, we had all these things going on. Living on the dairy farm is not lucrative. And so I was scheduled to go back to work, and my mom sat me down and she just said, Bree, you cannot do this. Like, at that time, I had already been diagnosed with 3 things. Riley had her anaphylactic allergy, and she knew me well enough and knew my personality that if I went back, it was just going to tip the scale even further with all the extra stress and everything. So we set up a plan. My husband is super, super supportive. Came home one day and just said, hey, I'm thinking about not going back to work. And we just made it work. But a week after I resigned, walked away from teaching, my income, walked away from our insurance, I found out I was pregnant with my son. And so you can imagine, like, every time I tell this story, I just think, I don't like, how did we think that this was normal? But we did. We just thought that this was the way that our life was going to be. That I was just, I don't know, like it just felt crazy and out of control, but that's where we were. And looking back on it now, I know that it was crazy and out of control. But when we're living that life, it just feels like we have to muddle through it, right? And I'm sure that most of you, if you're on this call, it's because you have a dream. It's because you know that these products work, or you have the hope that these products are going to work. You have the hope that this business is going to work. And sometimes it's really hard to take a step back and to remember where you were at the beginning of this journey, or to remember where you were before this journey started. But I think that it is so, so important with every single person that you meet to remember that they are feeling something, that they are going through something. And to the outside looking in, especially once we have a taste of what freedom can look like from your health, from your finances, from your mind, it's so easy to think, man, like, give the products a try, give the business a try. But they're not there because it's still normal to them. So go back to where you were at the beginning and make sure that you're looking at it from that perspective. I just got off of a call. I do my accountability calls at 8:30, and then I got on a call with somebody that's signing up, and I was talking to her about stuff. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, like, okay, you need to do this tonight. Like, you need to get your order in because your products are going to be here and we're going to get you started. It's going to change your life. And then I have to reel myself in and think, this is for day one. Like, in my day one, I quit 2 weeks later because I still didn't believe in it. So I think that it's super, super important to always, always go back. But so I tell people that we became a crunchy family, not because I wanted to be crunchy, but because I had to be crunchy. Food labels controlled our house. I was at the health food store all the time. I was that, like, snobby girl that would read posts on Facebook about Plexus, and my eyes could not roll back into my head further. Like, I didn't want to see it. I didn't want you to be selling me something. But I had started a vinyl business, selling vinyl decals, like the ones that you can put up on your wall that you can get at like Hobby Lobby and stuff. I had this little vinyl Cricut machine and Silhouette that I was cutting stuff out of in my basement at night, and I was selling things on Etsy. That was how we were making money for groceries and paying bills. So I was already a marketer. I just didn't see it that way because I was making the product. Like, I was somehow better than this marketing stuff. But I had an acquaintance in my town came over and she bought something off of me. And I did not know it then, but I was kind of like her dream teamer. And so when she bought something off of me, I thought, okay, now, like, my personality, I'm very yellow. If you guys do color personalities, I thought, okay, she bought something off of me. I need to buy something off of her. So I ordered the probiotic and the cleanse, convinced that it was not going to work. And guess what? It didn't work because I had no idea how to take it. I had no idea why I was taking it. And I had already decided in my mind that it wasn't going to work for me. And I think that I see that so often in my team and even in my own journey on this, is that sometimes we put so much into sharing with the person that we don't realize that that's the easy part. The easy part is getting somebody to order. And maybe you're thinking right now, like, that's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard, because it is not easy to get people to order. I'm not saying that it's super easy, but when they order, that's when your real work begins. And I'm really, really passionate about this. If you are putting the time into getting someone to order, don't you dare ever, ever, ever let them down with that. Because they're trusting you. They're trusting you with their why. They're trusting you with a dream. And they might not know that why yet. They might not know that dream yet. but it's up to you to help them find that. I cannot tell you how many vendor shows I've been at, how many people I have talked to, and I've been guilty. I'm preaching to the choir here. I've done this before with people. Sometimes it's really easy when you have a goal. I am a person that you put a carrot in front of me, I want that carrot. And so I'm always going for Consistency Club. I'm always going for convention prizes. And sometimes when you have those end goals in mind, it can be really easy to just focus on getting people. But that's not what we're here to do. Because I cannot imagine if God would not have planted that little seed in me 6 months after I quit, because I did it for 2 weeks, guys. I wasn't consistent with the products, didn't know what I was doing, didn't know how to take them, and I quit. And it took me 6 months of research and coming back around to Plexus to give it another shot. But not every single person is going to be like that. So when they order, follow up with them. Find out why, before they even order. You should know why they're ordering. You know, what are the challenges that you have right now? What are some things that you're hoping that these products do for you? And coach them through that, because that's a really, really big thing. So I came back 6 months later and I swore that I was not doing network marketing. I was only going to order the products and I was going to try them for myself first. I was not going to give them to my kids, before I had done something with them. But in the first week and a half, 2 weeks, I was already feeling more energy. You know how that story goes. But I ended up, my mom has Lyme's disease and fibromyalgia. And so I called her and I just said, hey, I think you should do this with me. I think that it's really working. I didn't know how else to sign people up because I didn't have any of that direction. So she ended up ordering wholesale. And I called 2 other my friends. I didn't even know that I could make money on this at this point. I called 2 of my other friends, didn't know how else to sign them up. So they ordered wholesale with me. And my second upline ended up sending me a message and she said, hey, you just went silver, because nobody else on our team had done that quickly. She said, you just went silver with the company. I think you should really start posting about this. And I was like, girl, don't message me again. I am not a salesperson. I will never do this. I don't want anything to do with sharing. And she messaged me back another complete God thing. And she just said, that's perfect. You don't have to be a salesperson. All you have to do is be a shares person. And I did not know her. I had no idea who this person was that was messaging me, but I will never, ever forget that, because we don't sell things. We share something that can absolutely change somebody's life. And once I had that script flipped for me, then it was something completely different. I'm not going to say that there's not hard times. 2 weeks later, when I put up my first Facebook post and somebody was negative, I took it down and I didn't post again for a month. I mean, I had so much growth to do. But once I really started realizing what the opportunity was, the first real paycheck I got was just under $500. And I remember thinking that I was probably doing something illegal, but I didn't want to tell anybody because that was more money than I had made in a long time since I quit teaching. And I didn't have to be up until midnight working with my vinyl machine. I could help my husband take the stress off of his back. I could pay for groceries. I could pay for our electric bill, and I didn't have to worry. And that it makes me so emotional still, because that was the first time that I felt just a little bit of hope, that I didn't have to stress about finances, that I wasn't stressing about our health. My little girl has not been on any allergy medication in 3 years. She can go outside, she can go to the barn, she's eating all of her low intolerant foods. And had that not seed been planted, I cannot fathom where our family would be with our health, with our finances. I mean, we would be a completely different story. And I know that it would not be a success story. And the thing that I want every single one of you guys to know and to believe is that you have that power, not just for yourself, not just for your own story, but you get to do that for somebody else. And we get to do it from a cell phone while we're waiting for our, car pickup line, while you're driving and you get to call somebody. The times when we can build an empire and not just make an income, but to make an impact on somebody else's life. I mean, is it Ray? I just saw you pick your little girl up. Like, every single time I'm on one of these calls and I see somebody do that, you'll learn this about me really quick. I'm an emotional person. But what an absolute blessing. I get to pick my kids up from school every single day because that's my version of more. I get to coach them in soccer during the summer in softball because that's my version of more. So when you get off this call tonight, I know that you probably have done this, but if you haven't, just shut everything off. Shut your phone off, shut the TV off, go someplace where you can just be alone and let yourself dream for a few minutes. Because the way that we dream as adults is not really dreaming. Once we start dreaming, we think about what's in our bank account. We think about something that was huge for me, our town size. I grew up where there was no stoplights. And I thought there's no way that I can build a business like this. But that's the beauty of it, is that you can. So set those goals for yourself and don't stop. Don't let somebody's small mind determine how big your dream gets to be. Whatever you want that to be for yourself, that's what you get to go after. And to have this many people supporting you and loving on you and helping you go for that goal, the only person that's standing in your way is you. If you're not having as much activity as you want, increase your IPAs, message more people, build more relationships, join more groups, go do all the things that you know how to do and that you could watch every single call, right? You could watch every single John Maxwell video. You can listen to every single Rachel Hollis podcast. But if you don't get off of those things and actually apply it, nothing's actually going to change for you. But the beauty of this is that every single one of us can make it to the top of this company. They want us to succeed. And there's no other network marketing company, believe me. I was a math teacher. I've plugged in numbers. I've looked at different things. There's nothing else that's like this opportunity that we're a part of. Ooh, sorry, I lost you there for a second. I go off on rabbit holes, and my team knows me well enough that once I start talking, if I start going off on these like rabbit trails or squirrel chases, they put squirrels in the comments of my chats, so I know to like bring it back in. But I know that you guys have questions, so if you have questions about stuff, or I don't know how you wanted to work that.
Awesome. First off, thank you for sharing and letting us get to know you a little bit more. But anyone on my team, don't you worry about tears and emotion. They know all about it with me. I cry every week. I don't even know why. Sometimes it just happens. But we do want to open it up for question and answer. And so you guys can either raise your hand and I can unmute you, or you just go ahead and unmute and ask. I know some people already had some ready to go. Otherwise, I'll call on you who I know who has them.
Hi, Brianne. My name's Nicole.
Yeah, she's on her phone, so she won't be able to like see everybody probably, will you?
Well, I just want to find, so I'll scroll through to find you.
Okay.
I'm waiting.
This is one of the things, anybody can do this because my computer camera is broken. So I usually get on both things. And I live in the middle of nowhere and I never have service. So I always hole up in my room. Okay, Nicole, I think I found you.
Thank you so much for pouring into us tonight. So you contacted Dream Teamer and you meet for coffee or lunch or whatever. What does that conversation sound like? Do you bring anything with you to show her or him, or is it just straight talk?
Both. I think that it really depends on what the situation is. Most of my dream teamers that I have now currently are not in my area because I live in such a small area. I've kind of tapped them out. But originally, at first, I did it wrong because I would do the plexus vomit on them. You know, I remember some of the first messages that I sent to people that I went to college with. It was like this long, you know, and they'd have to like do all the scrolling to figure out what the heck I was talking about. And I was like, hey, do you remember when we were in college and you suffered with constipation? Like, what in the world was that message? So now it's definitely different, but I always, always, always have the success magazines. If you guys go into the back office, not just the catalogs. I very actually rarely send out the catalogs to people. I have a couple here getting ready to send out tomorrow to people that I can't meet with in person. But before the meeting, I will actually go through the notebook or the success magazine, and I'll handwrite in them. I'll have written stories. So if I have somebody, like I have a girl that lives in Texas right now, that I really, really want on our team. And so in that success magazine, I highlighted Emily Roberts' testimony because she is with the armed forces. So I highlight all of those things for them. But a lot of it, when I meet with somebody in person, I'll have those things there that if they ask me questions, I can give it to them. But I don't really bring any of it out usually until the end. And then I just say like, hey, I want you to take this if they're not joining that day. But most of it, I just want to be able to look at them. I just want to be able to talk to them and to really be able to go through things. And that's one of the biggest things, guys, is take your business off of Messenger and do the things that are scary to you. I had it's kind of a squirrel trail too, but I had a level 1 who she lives only like a half an hour from me, but she was somebody that messaged me, just ended up joining as wholesale. And she recently just started saying that she wanted to share a little bit, but she was super flaky. Like she would kind of show up, kind of not show up. She would tag people sometimes. And so she had put me in a 3-way conversation with somebody that I had already been talking to about the products in the business and was a dream teamer for me. And I ended up last night calling her and just saying, hey, you know, this girl's ready to join, but I just really want to know from you what's going on. Like, what are your goals for this? She ended up completely breaking down on the phone. I mean, full on like tears, revealed everything to me, like her goal for not wanting to go back to work, for not wanting, you know, to have somebody else picking up her kids all the time, things that she told me, like she hasn't even told her husband yet. And it was simply from saying, what is your dream? Because so many people, one of the very best things, if you guys don't follow Kelly Norman, she's a diamond in the company from Oklahoma, but she said one time, what if everybody was walking around and instead of you just asking them how their day was and they say good, they had little sticky notes all over their body. And it was, I couldn't pay my bills last night. I just want to be present for my kids. I had to drop off a sick kid someplace. You know, my mom is dying. There's so many things that people have no idea that they're going on. And so when you can really sit and talk to a dream teamer and you know that you're present with them and that you can soak up every single word that they're saying, 9 times out of 10, people will want the opportunity. People will want the products. But more than that, they just want somebody that they can confide in. You know, and that's what this is all about. They just want somebody to be present for them. And if you can sit down and you can be present to them, don't worry about Bob Heilig. If you guys watch his stuff or listen to him, I love that he is transforming the way that network marketing is, because we can get so caught up in, and I'm not negating your question with this, Nicole, but we can get so caught up in making sure that we have the trifold brochures and we have all of the magazines and we know all of the scripts. But when you sit down with that person, they've already started their business, whether they know it or not. You know, and they don't want you to be able to recite every single product and every single ingredient and every single thing about the compensation plan. They just want you to be present and be with them and talk to them. And the more that you can keep it super simple, you're showing them that it's duplicatable. They're going to look back on that conversation with you and be like, oh, you know what? I can do this business. Because when Nicole met with me that day, we were already doing the business. She didn't have all the fancy things. She didn't have all of the perfect words. And if I didn't know a question, she simply just said, hey, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm on a page with 2,000 other people, and somebody's going to have been through that. So let me write this down and I'll ask it for you. You know, I think that sometimes we get so caught up in overcomplicating everything that people just want you to be there and be in the moment with them.
So good. So true. Next. I know we have no questions. She's really not scary, guys.
I might be.
Okay, I'm never one to shut up, so I'll jump in. Hi, Brianne. Nicole Barker, another Nicole, so we'll confuse you a little bit.
Fun. Let me find it.
Okay, and show the baby. Show the baby.
Oh, I have a new puppy, so.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, cuddles. It's not like a real baby, but you know, they're hopefully.
Oh no, they're babies. They're part of the
family. Okay, so what has been probably what would you say is the hardest part of this journey for you, and how have you overcome it or continue to?
Ooh, that's a good one. Personal growth. I mean, I think that it's so important. I just recently started counseling. I'm not ashamed of that at all. It's something that I should. I've actually went to school for psychology, but for some reason thought that I didn't need my own counselor, which is completely crazy because I have no problem telling everybody else that they need one. But about 6 months ago, maybe it's been a little bit more than that now, one of my absolute best friends, if you guys follow her, Alita Allen, and I are super, super close. And I was talking to her one day and she just said, all right, you know what? You have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to be really mad about this, to vent about this, to get everything off your chest. And then after that 5 minutes, you're done. We're not talking about this anymore. It's over. And sometimes I think that just giving that permission, you know, having somebody, first of all, that's bold enough to just call your own BS, right? Like she's that person for me. She can call me out on anything and I know that she's right with it. But giving yourself that permission to feel things in this business is one of the absolute best things that I've done. Because and once you give yourself permission, like I needed 30 seconds. You know, I didn't even need 5 minutes. I just needed it to be okay to feel those things.
Right.
But I think that sometimes in this, like you're going to hear people and I used to say this, like, oh, it doesn't bother me what they think about me. What? Like, I'm human. It bothers me. I want people to like me. Like that's not an abnormal thing to want to have friends and to be hurt when other people don't appreciate what you're doing. Or when you send a message, you know, my sister-in-law and I are super, super close, but I've had to get after her a lot for this because she'll send a message and then she'll check it 30 times. Like, oh, well, they saw it at 6:52 and they still have not responded to me. And it's so easy to get caught up into that game, right? Send a message, move on. If they message you back, perfect. Focus on them. But show up for the people that are going to show up for you. And if other people don't show up for you, don't stop loving on them. You know, don't not like their post because they didn't answer your message back. But I think giving yourself permission to feel those things is huge. You know, people say it all the time that it really is a compensation plan attached to personal growth. And whatever you're ready to get through, you're going to grow. You know, people say like, oh, you've been for a year. Are you getting close to diamond? No, I'm not anywhere close to diamond. But that's because I wasn't ready to be a diamond leader yet. And I have to put in the work to be able to get there. And I know that I do. I know that I have things that I need to work on. And owning that has been huge for me. You know, so wherever you're at, own it and be okay with it. and don't compare to somebody else. There's a quote going around with a lot of people that says, don't be jealous of people in their winning season because you don't know what they lost in their losing season. And it's so true. It's so easy in this journey to get caught up. A perfect example of this, you guys all know who Brooke Hemingway is, I'm assuming. Super amazing. She's been one of my biggest mentors. She joined like 2 months before I did. She's not only made it to diamond, she's made it back to sapphire again. And that would be really easy for me to be like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? Like, I haven't even made it to diamond yet. But flip your scripts. Like, it really is a constant thing of just flipping the way that we talk to ourselves in this whole entire journey. And if you're struggling with that, look at what you're reading. Look at the people that you surround yourself with. You're the sum of the 5 people that you talk to the most. So tonight, before you go to bed, look back through your messenger. Where was your time spent? And how many things are you listening to? And if you're telling yourself you don't have time, you're lying to yourself. You can listen to a podcast while you're driving or while you're doing the laundry or the dishes. But that was something that was huge for me. It was just realizing and allowing myself to have that personal growth and realizing that it's not selfish. Your babies are sleeping. You can spend time on you so that you can be better for them.
Thank you for that.
I don't know if I answered that or if
No,
I
you
just
totally did.
talked a
I
lot.
appreciate it. And I feel like I could just sit and talk with you all night, but I'll let everybody else talk.
Anyone else? I'll see what the other questions are here. Hold on. I think you already kind of answered this when you answered Nicole's. Just how do you help people see the opportunity and get them to start sharing? I think the start sharing part is probably the piece that we could hear a little bit more. How do you do that with your team?
I wish I knew. I mean, honestly, I think that it's different for every person. And I think that sometimes the same thing again, like we want this cookie cutter mold. But it really is just about talking to people. I think that sometimes and right now with this, I love that they took our suggestions for convention contest and that it's about getting silvers and that duplication piece. And I love that they're starting to put that down through. But don't get caught up in just messaging people and being like, hey, you ready to find your 3 people? Because that is terrifying for like 95% of people. It's not about that for them yet. But if you can start planting those little seeds, some people are going to run with it right away. But if you can start planting seeds for people, like when you're talking to them in a conversation and they say, oh, I was sleeping better. And you can say, yeah, that was one of the first things that my mom noticed. And I'm so glad that I shared with her because it was life-changing for her to wake up and have energy. If you can drop some of those hints to people, do you know anybody else that might suffer from X, Y, and Z or might want to do this with you? And feel them out. If I had one girl message me tonight and she was like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't respond back to you earlier. Well, actually, one of the best examples, I accidentally put somebody into one of my team chats and I noticed that she left the team chat and I was like, I don't know why she was in there. So I sent her a message tonight and I just said, hey, I'm really sorry. I don't know why, your name got added to it. She does do the Plexus products. I don't know why your name got added to this. I apologize. Like, I know that life is super busy, but I also know that this is a God thing. Like, there was some reason that we were supposed to connect tonight. How's everything going? And she started telling me about how it's really hard right now because they're working extra shifts at work and that they can't keep up with bills. And that was a complete opportunity for me to start talking about the business and the opportunity with them. But I don't ever say silver. I don't ever say like, hey, if you go silver, you can get this, this, and this. It's, hey, if you want to do this and you want me to hold your hand, walk you through it, and you want to grab a couple of people and do this together, because studies show that 80% of people that do this with somebody are more successful, then that back for you is an extra $400. Is that something that you would be interested in? But don't stop there. Like, help them come up. Don't just hand them the link for the leads you didn't know you had and say, hey, fill this out. Like, get them on the phone. I've done that so much in the last couple of weeks. Get them on the phone and say, this is the link. When I call you, can you have this? And then walk them through it. You know, who do you know that you would want to do this business with? And I guarantee you, at first, people are going to say, I don't have anybody that wants to do this. And so then walk them through, like, hey, you know, I thought the same thing because I was prejudging people.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think that this person would want it, and they have one of the best success stories on our team. And that's why posting is so important, because I don't know, you know, I didn't know all these people were watching and looking for an answer. So do you want to put up your first post? And you draft that for them. If they're willing to put it up, don't leave it up to them. You draft the first post for them, you send it to them, and you have them tag you in it. And I'm sure you guys do this, but I'll go to my runners thread and I'll send them a link and I'll say, hey, this girl just posted for the first time. Can you all go comment on it? And then everybody hops in, because even if nobody else outside of that group, or, you know, outside of their friends comment on that, they know that they have 20 people that have their back and are ready to support them. And sometimes that's all the extra that people need to really jump in, because same thing, they just want to be part of a community and they want to know what that's like.
Yeah, I love that. I remember my first post and seeing at the time, well, my upline is Allison Ricky, who's an emerald, and then Emily Fennell diamond, Stacy Curtis diamond, Tiffany diamond. And they were probably like, I think when I started, they were golds and senior golds. And they were all commenting on my post, at my first post. And I thought it was the like coolest thing. I'm like, look at all these people supporting me and they don't even know me. Little did I know that, like, this is the community, you know, like that's the beginning. That's the opening door to showing people like how supportive this community really is. So.
And women don't have that. I mean, that probably goes without saying, but I had like my core group of people, you know, I always used, my classic quote was, I would rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And it almost like justified it for me that I only had 4 friends that I was really close to. Yeah. And those 4 friends were like the ones that I could call up and have like my Tourette's conversation with them while my kids were like running around. And now to know that I've got, I mean, hundreds of people that you could just message or call or ask, and they're spread across the country. Like, that's an incredible thing to invite people into.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, any one last question? I want to wrap it up for her because it is on East Coast for her. Any more questions? Okay, my last question for you. What's the one book that you want us all to read? Or that's changed things for you? Or
oh man, I have so many. I love reading. So right now I'm super into anything John Maxwell.
Did you get the new one?
I haven't gotten the new one yet because I literally have 10 books on my nightstand right now that I'm like sorting through. When I first got going, I think that it changes as levels, right? Yeah. But one of the first books that I loved was Present Over Perfect. Because I had to really learn that this journey was not about being perfect. I did not need to say yes to every opportunity. You know, the same thing going back, like people that didn't show up for me, I didn't have to show up for them at the drop of a dime. So Present Over Perfect was huge for me. And if you guys haven't, you can even watch the video, but Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule.
Oh yeah.
I love that concept. That changed so much for me in my business, because so often, if you guys can really get like a 15-minute synopsis of this if you go to YouTube tonight, if you haven't heard of her. But it's basically, you have 5 seconds to decide, you know, if you don't start actively walking towards somebody that you see within 5 seconds to go and talk to them, you will not do it. Your brain like initiates the fight or flight response and it shuts you down. Yeah. And so I have my whole team now, like when we get on our accountability calls, that's one of the things that they say, like 5 seconds. I messaged them in 5 seconds, because we know that if we pull up somebody's name and we don't message them in 5 seconds, we're not going to do it. We're going to talk ourselves out of it. So that was something that was really huge for me. Of course, I'm obsessed with Rachel Hollis, so Girl Wash Your Face, and I can't wait for Girl Stop Apologizing to come out. I think those are the big ones that I can come up with off the top of my head. I also love anything but Brené Brown. Dare to Lead was a huge one for me too.
So good. Thank you so much, Brianne, for pouring into our team and spending some time with us tonight. And thank you guys all for being here. Have a fantastic week. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Love you, girl.